Zombies have been a part of pop culture for many decades. From Night of the Living Dead in the 60s to the Resident Evil games of the 90s to the 2013 summer blockbuster World War Z. There's no mistaking the popularity of The Walking Dead in film and television, text, games, and music. My presentation is entitled Zombie Capitalism in the Classroom and is based largely on the research of Henry A. Giroux. In his book, Zombie Politics and Culture in the Age of Casino Capitalism, Giroux argues that our fixation with the undead comes from the corresponding stories that flood our media of real-life doom and disaster. He believes that our society has become cynical and despairing, and makes reference to tragedies such as oil spills, climate change, natural disasters, and economic and financial crisis. He believes that the real-life zombies are the corrupt politicians and investors who have destroyed the meaning of democracy and replaced it with a culture of war. It is important to note immediately that this book is written from an American perspective, and thus does not always reflect Canadian society. I chose to look at two chapters in particular from his book, chapters 13 and 14, which dealt directly with youth and school environments. Giroux argues that schools have become increasingly violent, and mentions in particular the militarization of schools in the United States and America's youth crime complex. He states that 61% of youth have reported being exposed to varying levels of violence inside and outside of the schools. The amount of violence we see in schools cannot be disconnected from the amount of violence that floods our media. In particular, this affects minority and lower classes of youth. Giroux also examines the democratic ideology which has crumbled since the Bush administration took power. American society, and in turn other Western societies, have become obsessed with war, and no longer value all human beings as worthy of human rights. The meaning of war itself has expanded visually and materially, and has even lent its name to wage social battles such as the war on drugs and the war on immigration. We've all heard of the war on terrorism. There was a time when this fixation was an emergency measure, but it has now become a permanent part of American culture. One of the more current zombie stories comes from Max Brooks, and is entitled An Oral History of the Zombie War. Some of us are more familiar with the film adaptation starring Brad Pitt, which was renamed World War Z. The author of the original story summarized Giroux's argument rather well. He commented that, "We're living in very uncertain times. People have a lot of anxiety about the future. They're constantly being battered with these very scary, very global catastrophes. They can't read stories about real plagues or nuclear war. That's too scary. Zombie stories give people the opportunity to witness the end of the world they've been secretly wondering about, while at the same time allowing themselves to sleep at night, because the catalyst of that end is fictional. We are fixated with zombies because we are fixated by everything we don't understand about the current world. It's always been that way. In the 60s, when George Romero first popularized and reimagined zombies as we know them today with the film Night of the Living Dead, he admitted that it was a metaphor for everything that was wrong in the world. Many believed the death of his African-American hero was a response to the death of Martin Luther King Jr. In 2004, a remake of Dawn of the Dead was released, which centered around a group of survivors in a shopping mall. Many considered this to be a reflection of society's consumerism.
Here's an idea. The recent resurgence of zombies is because of technology. Ideas. So unless you've been in your bunker preparing for the zombie apocalypse, you've probably seen plenty of zombies recently. You know the type. Shambly walk, groany voice, very restricted diet. And for whatever reason, we can't seem to get enough of this gray, undead horde. The Walking Dead, Left 4 Dead, Day of the Dead, 28 Days Later, Dawn of the Dead, Zombieland. So what is it about zombies that inspires the creation of dozens of new properties and their invasion into older properties? I mean, it's not exactly their looks or charm. We tend to love monsters because they symbolize something in our real lives, something we're not fond of. And in the movies, we get to see the protagonists defeat or live alongside of whatever terrible thing is causing them strife. We watch ourselves persevere in the face of extreme menace. Some critics say that George A. Romero's film specifically might symbolize the colossus of capitalism, or the brainless, insatiable hunger of consumerism. But I don't think we, on the whole, are as afraid of consumer culture or class warfare as we are of, say, terrorism, or the continued effects of economic collapse, both of which, like zombies, are forces against which reason feels useless. There's no bargaining, and at a certain point, everybody's fate is just sealed. You can't erase terrorism, undo the effects of a crashed economy, or reverse the zombie apocalypse. The Horde is a symbol for a world beyond human control. Like the tides or the seasons or new Yui Bowl movies, there's nothing we can do to stop it. Zombies aren't evil. They have no ill will or malintent. They're just victims of circumstance. They're hungry and super dumb. They're basically just running a program. Whoa, wait a minute. Are zombies technology? To many people, technology marches forward, seemingly completely disinterested in humanity. Media, ways of communicating, systems of commerce, all change regardless of what you want.
In summary, Giroux essentially argues that the popularization of zombies has always been a result of social, political, economic, and cultural issues. In Robert A. Saunders' article, he essentially says the same thing. Science fiction is a genre of the unknown but imaginable world, and addresses the questions that people are asking. Zombies science fiction functions as a manifestation of society's fear that comes from a loss of control. This loss of control comes in many forms, such as environmental, political, and even technological. So just how popular are zombies in pop culture? Take a moment to look at these collages and determine just how many titles you're familiar with. Perhaps you loved Zombieland or Shaun of the Dead. Maybe you played games like the Resident Evil series, Call of Duty, or even Plants vs. Zombies. Or maybe you read Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, or the 6th Harry Potter novel, where J.K. Rowling calls her version of zombies Inferi. Chances are that if we're interested in some of these titles, so are our students. A crucial part of education today is providing material that is relevant and engaging for our students. Teachers can bring zombie content into their classrooms in almost any subject area, and because it is current and popular, students are likely to become hooked. Proof? Universities and colleges are implementing zombie-themed survival courses, and students are more engaged than ever. Michigan State University, for example, has a course called Surviving the Coming Zombie Apocalypse, Disasters, Catastrophes, and Human Behavior. It's so popular that it's even winning awards. In an English classroom, one could get students reading graphic novels, and then comparing this medium to another through genre or character analysis. There are some great themes to be examined, such as survival and heroism in many works. In a science classroom, you could use a zombie scenario to study bacteria and disease. But the most interesting example of using zombie pop culture to teach curriculum objectives was in relation to a geography or history classroom. The content was made appropriate even for middle school students. Carla Duff took ordinary topics such as landforms, population density, and migration patterns, and turned an ordinarily dry lesson into something remarkable. She presented the following scenario to her students. You are a tourist in a European capital city. You must prepare a plan to survive a zombie attack. Suggest 2 possible safe places to go so you will be prepared. But before you can share this information, you have to research the major cities, their population density, climate, elevations, major transportation routes, bodies of water, food and water resources, and anything else that can aid you in escaping and riding out the attack. Pedagogically, zombie content is great if you're interested in using 3 key elements. Number 1, problem-based learning. It's scenario-driven, gives students an opportunity to participate in choose-your-own-adventure style activities, etc. Secondly, it's technology-driven learning. You can use music, film, images, create memes and infographics, and get students working with technology. Finally, it gets students critically thinking. Students must be able to utilize analysis, communication, evaluation skills, and more to survive and solve problems in a zombie apocalypse. There is no denying that many of the issues in our education system today stem from a lack of modern curriculum and relevance for students. Pop culture, and in particular zombie culture, are interesting and engaging, and contain endless possibilities for teaching. Thank you for your time.